Diddly diddly do. Hi, hello everyone. It is I, the real Randy Chavez, coming at you today with Dr. Stuff. What's going on?
What up? How you doing, Randy? Good
I'm
to see
doing
you,
all right.
man.
Yeah, everyone say hello to Dashi. Hello, Dashi. And we are here on the aftermath of 2023's NFT NYC.
Hmm.
And I saw you do a couple of videos about that, or live streams about that, where you were talking about what you saw. Now, I think that's where we had originally met, right? NFT NYC in 2022, correct?
Yeah, in person. That was the first time I got to meet you, man. Gave you a big old hug.
Yeah, that was great. That was so much fun.
That was good.
Um, I didn't take a look at your, I didn't get a chance to take a look at your lives that you had done for this year. I was just not in town. I
Hmm.
know we're supposed to meet up one day, but again, I just wasn't in town. Uh, before we get into that, can I ask what the main difference is that you saw between 2022 and 2023 NFT NYC?
Yeah, in 2022, when NFT projects were still, some of them were still up, or like they recently done raises, so they had funds. A lot of them had funds.
Mhm.
A lot less projects in general this year than last. So energy was a little bit. Not a little bit. It was a lot lower, right? Like Bored Apes weren't there. I mean, last
Huh.
year Goblin Town was doing really big, right? So like, and last year Bored Apes had that massive concert and like all of these different activities throughout the week. So there's some projects doing, having shindigs. A kid called Beast had a party.
Yeah.
Broadside did some stuff. So there was that. The other really big difference between last year and this year, there were way more like legal experts, accounting experts.
Oh,
Yeah, right. As they're like, look,
good. Good.
regulations come in. And
Good.
so if you want to survive, if you're going to survive, if you think you have the funds to survive, you're gonna need to be compliant type stuff, right? So I actually talked with a lot of those vendors. Talked to a guy who used to work at the SEC about securities and one of the interesting things he said is like there's a joke that we used to say at the SEC that like we can make anything a security, you know. And it's like, sure, like you fit it in the Howey test, but like is it going to stand up in a court of law? Right.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference. But yeah, and but it was cool to see Immutable X there, right? And I got to talk to Robbie like a little bit, talk to him
Yeah,
about
they're
Veve
awesome.
a little bit, so that was cool. But yeah, those were the main differences. Really, is like a little bit suppressed this year compared to last year with the energy levels, and then a lot more talk about like tax accounting and regulatory compliance and securities law and a lot of gaming stuff. There was a lot of gaming. They talked a lot. A lot of the speakers talked about gaming.
Yep.
That was unique compared to last year. I didn't see that as much. So, yeah. So,
So I think last year the only games that I saw were I think they had something for well Neopets. I don't know if they're still out. I had one of those guys on the podcast for Neopets, which is really
mm,
cool. But I'm really glad that you have a lot of legal people there because some people, had they not been there, are probably going to get blindsided. They might not pay attention to the macro. They might just think, oh, hey, I know the tech side, and this is cool, and they just might not know the regulation. When they say like it's coming, did they mention a time frame like after the election, or is it like an election piece? Hey, we're not going to let people get scammed by this. That's why we're bringing the hammer down. It's for your protection. Do you think that's going to be something that Biden's going to do, or is that complicated?
potentially, we're starting to see kind of lines drawn in the sand between political parties, which is sad. I think that crypto should be universal. It shouldn't become bipartisan. But like if you look at like the grilling of Mr. Gensler, and it was all one political party asking the tough questions, right? And then the others were like, "We love what you're doing in the space. Keep it up. Protect the people." And so I do think that it'll actually become an election issue. I like. There's no
That's
doubt in my mind that there will be talks about crypto as part of the elections coming
yeah.
coming.
So that what I recall from, or I guess I'm thinking more of the TikTok space where they were grilling him, but it was mostly Republicans that the videos that I saw. Um, for the Gary Gensler stuff, what party was like getting it into him? What party was being like, you are trash and you are just absolute god awful person. You should resign immediately. Which party was that?
That was the Republican Party was the one really going after Gensler. And see, but like you say, nice. Like I'm more of like a libertarian to a certain, which is ironic with some of the what I do, but I don't like that. I don't like I wish that it was both parties being like, look, let's make this work, right? But at least there's one that's really going after it. So I'm grateful for that, and that's why I do think that it will become a political issue, like, and it might even be like a single issue vote, right? Where people are like, I'm voting specifically for someone who I do not like, but it's because they support this one thing that I am adamant about. And so I will vote for them when I would have otherwise never done that before.
Yeah.
So yeah, because it's coming into space, man. Like crypto is not going away. And for the longest time, people thought it would. And it just kept coming back and coming back. I mean, even like Raoul Paul, right? Like talked about like he got Bitcoin, thought it was like a thing, you know, like just trending, and then it would go away after a couple of years. And when it didn't, then he was like, I really got to look into this, right? And I think that more and more, whether it's politicians or anyone, like investors, hedge funds, they're starting to be like maybe some tokens or a lot of tokens are going to go to zero, right? Just like the .com boom, there's a lot of businesses. Yeah, but this crypto thing, you know, is really here to stay. You know, and the ethos behind it, like it's just a worldwide thing that people are gravitating towards.
So what do you think would take? I feel like in general you have politicians that are anti-crypto just because they don't understand it. I am very curious to have you think, what would it take to be like a uniter, to get like, all right, all of Washington hates Mark Zuckerberg. What would it take? And not that I want them to unite around hate against crypto, but what do you think it would take for them to kind of unite and be like, oh, okay, hey, this could actually be really good for our economy. And if China bans it, you want all of this flush money coming into America's economy as opposed to foreign economies. How do you think we get that message across and be like, hey, this is the best for our citizens?
Well, I mean, I think we're starting to see that China is like, I mean, it was even read in Gensler's Inquisition, if you will, right? Where basically it was like, China has talked about like making themselves way more crypto friendly due to like how unfriendly the crypto regulations are in the US. And I think that, yo, what's up, Jimbo Lee Lingo? I still love your sign, man. Like I see people's signs. That's a great way to like, anytime I see those signs, I'm like, freaking Jimbo Lee Lingo, man. Rock star, just incredible art pieces. So yeah, China is like, we're going to make this more friendly. And there's that real stiff competition between the US and China, to where I do think that could be something that actually unites it. If it's like, all right, you know what, like China is trying to create their CBDC. Like, what can we do to stop this, right? And also the ironic thing is like, anytime you create regulations around and you can tax something, you can tax crypto, and crypto generates all this money. Like, I feel like that's another thing. It's like, look, you politicians love to overspend. Here's another revenue, right? Like of taxing. If you can get it to be, you know, within a certain frame. Now, I know that there's going to be the people with the ethos of crypto and self-custody and screw the government that aren't going to like that. But ultimately, it's coming whether we like it or not, right? Yeah. And so those are the types of things, like if China really starts to become crypto friendly and the US is like, wow, a lot of our businesses are moving that way, or power is kind of gravitating towards that, where they're like, we got to reassess and reevaluate to stop that from happening, you know?
So when you're having talks with these people at NFT NYC, what did they say companies had to do to stay compliant?
Well, it depends on the project, right? Like, I mean, so are you talking about projects with tokens or just like NFTs or?
Oh, that's a good point. I mean, I guess so. Not that I say I don't care about projects that are just have NFTs, but because Veve obviously has the OMI token, let's stick with projects that have a token. How do they stay compliant in an ever-changing market?
Well, there's still a lack of clarity is one of the things that they're talking about. And, with respect to what's a security and what's not, right? Because if Gary has his way, everything is a security, right? Except for Bitcoin, which is, and again, like, but look, he's doing these lawsuits, right? And issuing Wells notices, but like, he's not really winning lawsuits. There are some that just capitulate and they're like, we're not going to spend the money to fight it because we don't have the funds. And so he's like, oh yeah, we've won all these lawsuits. And I'm like, well, you didn't win, right? Like, they just didn't fight. But you have like the Coinbases of the world who's now suing, right? They're suing the SEC and being like, get your stuff together, gentlemen, right? Like, we need regulatory clarity there. And you have XRP, which is like slowly winning battles and things, right? So until some of that, like, a decision is made by the court, but during that grilling with Gensler, that was the thing. They were just like, you're going crazy with this, right? Like, all these proposed rulemakings that you're doing, and Congress didn't give you authority to do some of this stuff, right? Like, your quotes here is like, oh, with the whole Kraken staking, like, all of these exchanges need to take note, and they're like, that's not law, but you're implying that basically they are, and they need to be compliant with this law, but you can't do regulation by enforcement. That doesn't work. It's not effective. And yet you sit there and say, and this is my favorite part about the whole grilling, is they're like, you sit there and say that the regulations are clear, right? And that everyone just needs to be compliant, and that you can't tell me whether or not ETH is a security. You have the CFTC saying it's a commodity. You have the Attorney General of New York saying it's a security. And he's like, if it was clear, there would be no argument. But obviously there are arguments, and therefore, ergo, it's not clear, right? So stop saying it is. And I just love that, like, the points that they were able to make, and then you have Gary Gensler in 2018, like a video clip that surfaces of him being like, yeah, the SEC basically said that ETH is now decentralized and it's no longer security. And yet he's going against his predecessors on that. And it's just, that's where you're showing that it's arbitrary to a certain extent, right? And extremely frustrating. So going back to like that, your question, that's what they're saying is, but there are certain things that you can try to do when you're looking at the Howey test, right? To say, look, and I think that's what Veve is trying to do is bring utility to that token. I do think that they meet the Howey test, right? But so did ETH, like, to a certain extent too. Like, it could be argued, but again, even in Gary Gensler's own words, that like it became enough decentralized, right? Like certain things, aspects or prongs of the Howey test kind of started to not be met, to where it's no longer considered a security. And I think that's what Veve is trying to do. And that's the thing, is you just kind of got to look on it. I mean, there's those prongs, and as much as you can stay away from meeting at least one of those, like, your chances are better. But yeah.
So there's a thing called, I guess, like a cliche, the devil that you know is better than the devil that you don't know. Yeah. We do know that Gary Gensler's fairly feckless and even a bit incompetent. Who do you propose to replace him?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't dived into, like, I do try to stay like as much away from politics as possible, just because it's maddening, and like, it's become so bipolar or polarizing, right? That like the other side is just bad. Like, oh, dude, Mike, like, even when you were on my channel, he's amazing, man. The comments he makes, just shout out to you, bro. Mike, you are hilarious. I love that. So I don't know. I don't have an individual in mind to be like, oh, like, this is who should become, the chair, SEC chair. What about you? Do you have someone in mind?
No one that I think would really, that has had a career in that particular office strain. Like, no one that would be like, oh, hey, they were attorney general. Hey, they were this. Like, I mean, I'd love it if somebody that was in the financial world that knows, hey, it's really good for the economy if we have a bull run, if we let it run, if we, but also can sniff out, hey, this company's doing the wrong thing because I've been a part of this for X, Y, and Z. Like, um, I don't know. I don't know who would be good for that. Someone in the crypto space. I think it should be something. You can't really have an unbiased opinion though if you have like a founder of any of these, tokens, these chains, because then they're gonna be like, oh yeah, mine's fine. I don't know, but going on to away from the political talk, away from the, I think, I don't know, what's the announcement going to be? Do you think that it's going to be, hey, because utility is right around the corner within the next couple of months for OMI, do you think that they might announce a listing soon? So what do you think the announcement is, if not a listing? And why not a listing? Also, you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry, man. Okay, so I don't think it's a listing. I don't. I mean, mind blown if that was the case, but I don't see it, because I think one of the two reasons that they haven't done a listing is either the pending lawsuit, and they need something to move with that, or they're concerned about regulation and the Howey test, and so they want the utility. Because Reese keeps saying that, right? Like, oh, utility. So if you're going to lean into that, and the fact that he keeps talking about that, then the argument could be made that they're waiting until that utility is there to kind of soften or kind of pull away from one of the prongs there, that like that token has a use case, right? And what up, OMI child? So yeah, I don't think it's an exchange. I think it could be one of the new verticals. They talked about that they were going to be doing two different verticals, right? Sports and music. Yeah. So I think that this might be the first one. That's my guess, is that an announcement of one of the new verticals, which I would be pumped. I think that would invigorate me and be like, yo, okay, like what is this, right? If it's music, like how are they incorporating that? Like I'm very fascinated to know how they're going to incorporate music, right, into their NFTs or into all of that, or yeah, what kind of sports or sports teams or individuals within sports, right? Like could show up there. So what about you?
I would say it'd probably be a license saying that, oh, hey, we just spent like a month in North Asia. Mm-hmm. And you could say what companies are in North Asia. And then you could say like, hey, this is what we have. So I'm really hoping for something with localization. I mean, you had a couple months ago, Dan Crothers went and followed, I think, Crunchyroll and Funimation over on Twitter, which are just places you can go and watch anime. So I think that would be really great to be able to say, oh, hey, we have this deal with them where we're able to go and advertise with them at the, instead of saying Funimation, you should be watching. They have a little like QR code that says download Veve or something like that. And I'm really curious. I've asked David multiple times, and he always kind of like skirts around it. So like, hey, what are we doing with the funds? What are, like, you guys are clearly flush with cash. What are we doing with that? So I think maybe them saying, hey, we've taken our team from 15, 30 to 50 to 100 people, however much. Say like, hey, we have this many people now. We have this many devs, and that they're good quality devs. I really would like to see a lot of them from the US or any first world country. But I would say any type of investment, anything that we could say, oh, hey, now we know another piece of the puzzle that's on their balance sheet. It's not just OMI and like Go token. We just have something else that we could see. I would like to see a new vertical would be great, which I think anime would be really cool. Again, if you're on the Asian train and you have localization, maybe you start off with Japan. Maybe you start off with because it's obviously the much smaller of the two between that and China. And a lot of people have kind of given up hope on the Mario Super Mario Brothers movie NFTs that we could get, but we actually don't open. We got lucky in the US, so we got a few weeks before Japan. It actually doesn't open in Japan until I think this weekend. So I think that maybe, hey, we would want to have Japan on board first before we get that. And again, that's a real long shot, but I love my Mario, so kind of holding out hope. I feel like in like 2016, like this is how Bernie Sanders can still win. Like this is how we can still get Mario.
Hey, so I didn't know if it was because my internet connection is not super strong right now, but it looks like you're frozen on my screen, and then Squid Cat is also saying that your video is frozen, but I can still hear you. Yeah, I was like, oh, it's probably me, but so I'm
Well, as long as
surprised.
you can hear me, I guess that's okay.
All right, man. I'll look at that sweet face.
Oh God, what does it look like? Take a screenshot for me.
Hold on, you're kind of like this.
Screenshot that, please.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's gonna be my face now for the rest of.
Hold on, bro. Check this out. I'm gonna screenshot it.
Back to the beginning. Okay, I can see me now. Are you still there? Oh, we're both stuck. Oh God, we're both frozen. Oh Lordy. All right, so everyone comment down below if you can hear me because I feel like I'm going well, but he's frozen now. Anyone screenshot right to save for later? Everyone is frozen, but can y'all hear me? Okay, we're gonna do this. Okay, hold on. All right, Randy, I'm back. Okay, can y'all hear me? Question mark. Okay, Randy's back. Yeah, how's that? Okay, so we're gonna be talking about a couple of things. Now the Dodger stuff is gone. We'll kind of venture out here. The thing with David last night. Who said that? No, Randy frozen. Okay, so David Yu has just been he's been tweeting up a storm, and we love him for it. We love the fact that David's going and retweeting things, posting on his Instagram. Whenever he's active on social media, we get really, really happy. Oh, let me go and bring on the doctor of stuff and see him and his spinning circle. That's okay. We good? We better?
I'm back, dude. So I'm using my cell phone for the Wi-Fi because the Wi-Fi is so bad that. But I think when I went to take the picture, for some reason it like dropped the allowing my cell phone to connect to the laptop. So, but now you're just like now it's just dark. Your screen's just dark.
Oh, I mean you look very PS1 2E. PS1.
Oh, no.
I can still hear you though.
Oh my gosh, this is funny, bro. This is way funny. Okay.
So yeah, I can hear you perfectly. All right. So last night, David Yu be tweeting up a storm. Someone was asking, like, what did you hop on the train of the I'm here forever? I don't even know what it was called. Like, I'm here to stay. I think it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and did read my post.
I heard like one word of that. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, I said, David, you retweeted me.
Oh, nice. What did you tweet? Oh yeah, you posted pictures, right?
Mm-hmm.
You posted pictures?
I posted pictures of Mike Adler, of Rev Alex G, and then me with Dan. I'm pissed because I have a picture with David Yu and Crypto Rain, and some of my buddies, right? And we're all wearing like David Yu and the Veve team shirts. I don't have that picture. I got to get it. I got to get it from my buddy, like whose phone they used. But yeah, like, and then I tweeted, and then the other picture was me in Disneyland by like the Steamboat Willie Theater with my Steamboat Willie. And then let's see. So I saw real quick too, talking about that. Someone had asked what my MCP level was.
Yeah.
I'm at 36 or 37. Master
Good.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So you have the level 36. What are your collecting goals like? What is the next piece that you're looking to get?
I want to talk about it because I'm still salty at you, Randy.
Why me?
Because I was about to purchase the freaking Veve logo.
And then?
and then you did a video about it, and it went from like 1.4K to like 2.5, 2.7K or something like that. It's just like,
and now it's like
now,
3,500. So.
now it's around there. So like, I mean, the problem for me is like I really want that piece, but like there's just so much. The crypto is so down that I can't in good conscience like look at that and be like, I'm going to drop $3,500 on something that like probably long term maybe it does like 1.5 or 2x like in a year. Like I don't know, right? Like, but like man, some of this crypto just has the potential to do so much more that I'm just like I'm just gonna have to buy more crypto.
Yeah.
And then as that hopefully some of those land, and then I'll use those funds to get into that.
I feel you. I've been I actually I went back to work, and now I'm in the midst of buying more OMI because like after having so many conversations with Crypto Rain and him saying like, why would I not buy down here? Why would you not do everything you could to buy down here? I was like, you know what, you right, fam, you're right. So went back to the grind and gonna get those goals. So outside of OMI, what other cryptos are you looking at? What other stuff seems good?
Well, we're going to have an altcoin space, but I'll kind of tease some of the tokens, right? So tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, Crypto Rain, myself, and Omili Tees, we're going to be hosting an altcoin space where we're going to kind of dive into the projects. But so one of them is cornucopias, and I've been with them since the beginning. And like they are building kind of a metaverse game on Cardano, and it was and they've done some awesome things. So I own a lot of their land, a lot of their NFTs, and their racing game is actually coming out here. Like the beta is coming out in like less than a month. That they're going to start beta testing, and the team has been awesome. They continue to build. They've got a lot of funds, a lot of runway. The Cardano community is like very similar to the Veve community, just staunch. If someone loves Cardano, like they are Cardano maxis basically. And so any game that's doing successful, like already has like a substantial amount of support. And I'll give you like, so here's something that's interesting. You see this all the time in crypto projects where like, they'll be like, oh, we've got like 245,000 followers or something on Twitter, but those aren't real, or they've got like so many people in Discord and it's like a lot of them are bots or like, like there's ways to inflate those numbers substantially to make them look more popular. And cornucopias is having none of it. They're like, here's our core community. I mean, I think their Discord has like, I want to say 40,000 or something. Like, I mean, and maybe it's Discord or it's Twitter, but like they're real people, right? And like what they're building. So like I've held on to their token. Their token's doing awesome. So I love cornucopias. I love what they're doing, and a lot of it like. They're doing things where activities in the game, like you want a house. You can't just like buy a house. I mean, you can, but like someone could make the blueprint. And then if you want the blueprint for that house, you've got to pay for it. And then on top of that, like your character's got to chop wood or someone's got to be chopping the wood. Someone's got to be doing the iron. So there's just kind of like farm village game things that you can do, like, and people can be busy and they can earn tokens by doing that, right? Because someone's like, well, I need the wood. And it's like, hey, I have my guy like chopping down wood on my land, so I'll sell you that. So there's like an in-game actual like economy around that.
Good.
A lot of modeling around it, and then like the games that they're building, they understand that like we got to keep people here, and so we're doing all these building out different games that people can just come in and have fun doing that, or they can do the farming, or they can do. And the thing that got me to invest in them beforehand is they talked about like a learn to earn. Right, where if you just learning about stuff, you could potentially earn tokens and things, and like just how far that could really go. That was very unique and different. So yeah, like really bullish on cornucopias. I'm an OG in their Discord, and like all of their drops I could buy NFTs on. I also like Launchpad tokens. So I have Engine Starter, and even in the bear market, like the token dumped pretty dramatically. I mean, at one point, like the all-time high was around like 18 to 20 cents, and now it's like 0.004 or 0.005 or something like that. So pretty substantial decline, right? But I picked some more of that up because I'm like, they've got real strong ties to Engine, which is a big name, and so they definitely have connections in the space, so that when crypto starts running again and these projects start launching on these launch pads, like Engine Starter, my assumption, right? Like my thesis is that they will go back to launch pads like. And there's other really good launch pads too, but just having that connection and that they would take well in the space before. So buying some different launch pad tokens, also some gaming tokens. Like, so some of these are like pre-seed investments that the token's not out yet, right?
Yeah.
But Spores, like that's another one. That's a launch pad, but they also have like metaverse. They're doing so much. And so I bought it quite a bit in like January and February. The token's gone up pretty substantially. And then the list.
Oh, there he is.
Oh.
We lost you for a second.
Oh, I thought it was you. That you almost came on. Man, dude, I don't know what is going on with this.
The powers that be don't want us to talk. We were talking too much crap about the SEC before. They're trying to silence us.
Oh yeah, they got their bots listening, man. They're rugging us. That's funny.
So Bill Gardner agrees with you. Says Cardano gang, Copy gang, OMI gang, Steamboat. You guys do have a lot in common.
I'm not Dr. Profit. Okay, yeah. I was like,
yeah.
No, I wish. I mean, man, yeah, like, but yeah, I love Bill Gardner, man. He's on a lot of the streams that I do, or like just shows up in a lot of the streams that I've watched. Just awesome. I love the positivity, and yeah, there we go. OMI, Kopi, Ada. Yeah, Ada. I definitely have a lot of Cardano as well. You know, so I've been stacking on Cardano as well. I still think that that's pretty undervalued as something that's going to go in another run, in the next bull run. Again, my non-financial advice, my thesis.
Directions unclear. Sold all OMI for Cardano. Do you know? So in other communities, is there like a Randy Chavez in the Cardano community? Someone that's like sold everything and is living on like Taco Bell just for more Cardano?
Not that I've come across that has a channel, right? Like there probably is someone, but like, no, man, you dig the cake. Like I love it, you know. And I mean, I'll say this, right? And Crypto Rain talked about this too, with some of his buddies in like 2017. Like he went pretty big into Cardano, but he diversified, right? But then he had some people that just went all in. They did everything into Cardano. And he was like, I was so pissed because like when Cardano just pumped, like they were doing so much better than me. And he's like, but over time, my diversification really helped. So with you, man, like, and I love it. Like, you're just like, I'm going the biggest that I could possibly ever go ever, or I'm going home, you know? And that props to you, because for me, if I was at your position now, I'd be like, I have enough. And I'm going to look at some other projects, but you're right. Like if OMI does do crazy things, I mean, when you're on my channel, you're like $1 trillion market cap, that I was kind of like, but like, man, if that happened, bro, like, it's
yeah,
like,
and obviously that's not right
King
away.
Randy Chavez, right? Like we're going to start calling you King Randy Chavez. So, yeah.
So have you taken a look into Earth 2 as one of the other projects that you've taken a look at as far as metaverses go?
I'm embarrassed to say, Randy, as much as I've watched your channel and I've heard you talk about it, that no, I have not, because part of it is I feel like I'm like, have I missed the boat on that? So I haven't I haven't looked into Earth 2, man.
Which
I should.
I understand. It's like, okay, now because there is a lot to learn, because there's land and there's, oh, hey, how do I get these jewels? Well, or how do I get these mentors? Well, you have to slot them with jewels, and they collect ether. What are jewels? Well, you get them by buying land, and you can get more jewels on the market, or you can get more jewels. Like I understand that there's a lot of working parts to it, and it's like a board game. Learning the board game for the first time is like there's so many rules. Like when is it going to be fun? And then after you learn it, you're like, oh, okay, this is cool. So I get it. I think though I've told people here though that if OMI starts pumping before Earth 2 lists their essence, I will sell some OMI for more essence. I only have 40,000 of it. But if the opposite happens and Earth 2 lists their essence token on Binance and they pump before OMI does, I'm gonna sell some more essence and I'll get up to 200 million OMI fairly quickly. So it's, one will probably sell into the other. Yeah, that's the goal.
Just take some profits though, bro. If one of them pumps, take like 40% and just stack that as cash. Start building that up.
I was thinking, yeah, obviously that makes sense, but I was thinking about doing that when I wasn't working, and now that I am working, it's like, okay, well, it's like Tiger Woods, like he doesn't spend the money that he gets from advertising, or like back in the day he didn't. I don't know if he's doing it now. He only spent the money he got from playing golf. So I feel like if I only spend the money and live off the money I get from working, then I don't really have to sell any of my crypto. But I don't know. I don't know if that's the right thing to do, because I could leave a lot of money on the table if it goes up and I don't sell and it goes back down. I think I learned my lesson last time. I don't know.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love like the different investment. You got hang with me saying like not 40%, do 25 to 30. Look, everyone has a different thought process, right? And it'll be interesting to see how it pans out, right? But what you don't want to do is be like, OMI's going to $10, and then I'm selling all my NFTs for OMI, and now OMI's going to zero, and I'm selling my OMI at the bottom.
Like some YouTubers do.
Like some people do, and look, like that's fine. If like at the same time, like if someone is completely convinced that they're just like, this is going nowhere, I get it, right? I get it. But it is just ironic that progression. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
So there are so many things to be excited about, whether it's buying down here, good projects when things are fairly low, whether it's just like, hey, what we're going to happen in the next, 6 months to a year. You have a Bitcoin halving, you have NFTs that are coming out, Veve announcing stuff. In the space in general, it doesn't necessarily have to be Veve related, but in the space, what are you most excited for? What's something that you're just like, you can't wait?
I just like, what I really can't wait for is the technology to get to a point where the mainstream sees what we see. And not because that's going to pump bags or anything. I just don't like, it's crazy just what's happening in the space. And like, look, there's some things that it's just like, why do you need crypto for that? Like, I get that. But like, yeah, just the use cases of, and one of the tokens that I invested in, I've talked about recently quite a bit, is the gene token, GENE, right? And who knows if that will pan out, but the idea behind, you actually get to own your DNA and the code there, and researchers will pay you crypto to access small portions of your DNA. If you meet certain criteria, they can take that and be like, oh, this person meets this criteria, and we look at this snippet of DNA, and like they have a predisposition for Alzheimer's disease, right? And the amount of money that crypto or like researchers can save by doing that. So just that ethos of like, in Web 2, like we were the market, but in Web 3, like we own ourselves, right? Like and we earn the money. We can still be the market, but we get paid for it, and not these other third parties like Facebook or things. So that's what I want. I think that just overall the benefit to the world in general, and understanding kind of more self-custody, decentralization to an extent. That's what I'm bullish on, man. The builders out there that continue to build these ZK rollups and all these things that are making it easier and faster and cheaper. I love that. And that's why even at NFT NYC, when things were kind of slower than they were, I love to see the projects that are building and the different ideas and the use cases that are coming up for it. So what about you?
Well, I'll get to that in a second. I was curious, what are the regulations behind that gene company where, like, okay, they have your DNA and they can test like, hey, you're a predisposition for this, that part's great. But what else can they do with that DNA?
They can't do so. Okay. So what happens is, so just like a 23andMe, right? You do a genetic test, right? But it's a lot more substantial. Like it's a full genetic test. Whereas 23andMe, they only do like a partial gene test, and so like it'll tell you your ancestry, but it doesn't necessarily go into all of the like you get with the genomes.io is the company, like you get the full report. So you still pay money, just like you do with 23andMe. It's like $500 for this test. They send you the kit, they send it back. You get the information and it is locked in your vault on the app, right? Like it's encrypted. That's your information. And then what happens is they partner with these research firms. The research firm says, we are looking for a white American male in between the ages of 20 and 60. And we want to know, if they have a predisposition for Alzheimer's, but then also we want to know like if that correlates and we have a predisposition or, for something else. Like, I mean, it's just a myriad of things, right? Well, what happens is then basically it'll be like, okay, all we're doing is we're proving that you meet this criteria. Well, they'll say, hey, these are all of the candidates that meet this criteria. They don't get my name. They don't get any personally identifiable information. It's just certain statistics or data points about me. And then I get pinged and it's like, hey, this research company is willing to pay you $50 or $100 and they want this specific information. Do you want to participate and share this information with them? And then you can say yes or no. And then you get paid in the gene token, and they also have a gnomes token as well. And right now, that's eluding me, like how those two correlate. But you get paid in that, and then you can cash that token out. But like the regulations around it, like as long as, I mean, you have like HIPAA, but like as long as they're not disclosing that, and I'm sure that there's like certain information, and it could be that like, hey, you're releasing this information to them to use going forward. They get to keep this information, But you know what? You didn't get paid for any of that when you did it to 23andMe, and 23andMe sold your information, and they made the money off your genetic code. So that's the thing that I like is the ownership, right? Where you get to choose what information is shared, and you can get paid for sharing that or decide not to share it.
So I have so many ideas with that because there's a company called Illumina that tests for no, I'm sorry. So everyone knows, I think most people know what CRISPR is, where they go and they take they can edit your genes. They can edit the DNA. Predisposition for something, or they can edit actually genes in the womb, which are really cool. But the company that did the test for all those was Illumina, and so that stock did really well for me back in the day, and I think they're still doing well. But if you could have, like, picture this for a second, and I feel like the Slytherin side of like my Harry Potter is coming out here, but if you could have a dating app where you say, hey, give us your DNA and we could match you based on like whatever you want. You'd be like, okay, I want someone who's white, or I want something who's this age. I want someone whose grandparents are like all still living, who are like, I could picture people like dating specifically just on like genetics. And if you fit some certain criteria, you get like a yellow hinge to your profile. Or if you fit another criteria, you get like a red. Now I don't know how many people would do this. I don't know how many like unintended consequences could come from that. But I just feel like that would be really fun. That'd be really dope.
I'm out, bro. Because I'm not just thinking about like my kids and what they're, are they going to be super pro athletes? Because maybe some people are, right? But I'm just like, if I'm going to date someone, like we've got to be compatible, just like on a physical and emotional level. And your genes aren't going to necessarily tell me that. You can be blonde, but like, and maybe you're super attracted to certain people, but not to me. So like, but like, who knows, right? Like, I mean, that reminds me of what's that movie with Ethan Hunt? Is it
The new
Gattaca?
one?
No, where basically like that's these people get to choose the traits, these genetically modified babies, right? And then what kind of ends up happening is any parent who decides to just have like a natural born child without any genetic modifications, they're kind of like the outcasts, right? And Ethan Hunt ends up being one of those naturally born babies, and like he wants to fly in space, but like only genetically modified babies are allowed to do that, allowed to do any of the actual work, but like he kind of falsifies documents and does that. But yeah, I don't know, man. That's a scary road to go down where like we start picking on those type of traits. But who knows, man? Like there's money to be made. And there's probably people who would love that idea,
Yeah, I mean, that being said, like part of the reason why I never like, as I was trying to raise capital for more OMI, try to get more money, like part of the reason why I never sold like my sperm as people do is because generally your sperm is worth more if you can show like a family history that you don't have this, and I'm adopted, so I don't have any of that. Or if you have however many degrees you have, like high school, college, masters, etc., the more it's worth. And I just have high school. Like I barely did that, so I'm my sperm probably isn't worth much. So I think something like this, where they can go and show, oh, hey, you're more than just a college degree. Maybe I feel like that would also, people's sperm would be viewed differently. Like I think women's eggs in general, they like to harvest a lot, and that's always worth a lot. We're getting way off topic from Veve.
Yeah, well, and shout out, I saw Biscuits. I just had to shout out Biscuits. I don't know if she's still watching, but she's my favorite, and like Biscuits is just real. And
I love Biscuits. She's so cool.
And so creative. I love it. Like I just love her posts and things.
Did I do it? I forget what I did. There was a I think it was me. There was some giveaway that I was doing, like, hey, comment down below your favorite like photo picture that you've taken with your Veve NFTs, and Biscuits won. And I was like, hey, you won. Like this photo is like insanely beautiful, and she's just like, double it, give it to the next person. And I was like, oh fudge, okay. And then I wound up giving it to someone else. But yeah, she's so humble, so chill, so giving. I love her.
Yeah, awesome. So I have done stuff with the app recently. Recovery Plus is talking about that, but not as much. Like it's true, right? I mean, like I am waiting for the Veveverse. Like I do think that that's where I will really start to use it, like and set up my my space, and I'm actually really looking forward to that. But I will still take pictures in AR. Like I did that just recently, and in fact I competed in the Ubisoft Rabbids competition.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So like I still use the vault, like, or the AR portion, but my kids love it, man. The Cookie Monster and the Spider-Man is like constantly like. My little 2-year-old, he's like, Spider-Man, Dad, Spider-Man, like, I mean, he loves it. So, I still use that.
Yeah, God, he's like the most popular character like ever. I maybe as I reach the moment goals, get more funds, I'll try to get a secret rare Spider-Man if I can. I mean, I know you said we were talking about the logo before. Are there any grails that you, outside of the logo, that you're just like, hey, which one do you think is going to be the best? I think partner statue is going to probably do the best. Be advised, because I do not have a partner statue. I just feel like it's going to be the best. What about you, and why?
Like when you say the best, like the most popular down the line?
Yeah, the ones that are just like going to completely be out of reach because of how popular they are.
I think I agree with you. Look, like, I mean, Veve Magic has really opened my eyes to the like how rabid the fans are the Disney fans are, right? That they'll wait in line for hours to get the new popcorn bucket from Disney, right? And then they'll spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. You have the Club 33. Like, man, Disney's done an incredible job of just creating this fandom. And so the very first ever Mickey Mouse NFT that's also Walt Disney, like both of those in the same NFT, right? I mean, there's Spider-Man fans all around the world, but there's Disney fans all over the world that spend so much money on Disney on an annual basis. And I don't see that like from Spider-Man fans, right? Like, in general, they're like, I just love Spider-Man so much that I'm buying Spider-Man merch. What's the newest Spider-Man pillowcase? Like, I'm getting that, or the Spider-Man trick-or-treating bucket, right? Like, they don't do that like they do with Disney stuff. So I agree with you. Like, and it's there's like 3,333, right? Of those. And so I do think that worldwide, that is a very small number.
Yeah. Especially when Dr. Profit has 10% of them. So it brings that down another notch.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Which one do you think is the dark horse? They're just like, wow, nobody expected this. And then like coming out of left field is like, Jake the dog from Adventure Time, like for whatever reason.
Potentially. I mean, what's on the app right now, right? Because obviously, like we could speculate about, but like a dark horse that I could see potentially is Ultraman. Like the APAC region in general, like spending on technology and these type of things is significantly higher, right, than the West. And Ultraman's a pretty big. I mean, he is the character. Like I did a lot of research in this. Like Ultraman is like Spider-Man and Iron Man and Superman and He-Man, like combined, right? Like he is the guy. Ultraman is the guy. And so if I was to say like a dark horse, I was kind of like, yo, what? Like, I mean, he's been on here forever, and now like. So, I mean, I could see something like that coming out of left field where it's just like, man, Ultraman is such a popular character, and the APAC region is quicker to adopt technology, that once we get localization, something that could potentially just go crazy and people be like, yo, what the heck? So, I mean, I bought some sub 100 Ultramans, and then I just have a small stack of just like the commons and things. Of him, so we'll see.
I would think Alligator Loki is a pretty good now. I would say I think one of the Cartoon Network ones. I think the Powerpuff Girls are really popular, and I don't know if we still have the Cartoon Network license anymore, but those things are super scarce, especially the bubbles. Like again, if you want the trio, if you want all three of the Powerpuff Girls, there's only 600 bubbles. I really like her. I really like all of them. So. I think those will be. I think those are my choice for the dark horse is the Powerpuff Girls.
The scarcity is there, right? Even compared, like the Ultraman has a significantly higher amount of editions, and so that is something, right? You only need 600 people to be like, I'm not selling, or 500, and I can't remember how many Veve kept back then, like 20 or something. So 580 or 560 people to say like, I'm not selling. Then there's only 20 that like are listed, and if those get eaten up, right, the price could go really high. And if there's like the only thing that I like is, are they popular enough, and the people who like that, are they the ones with money?
It's true. Got them crazy rotations. Love that show. Something I completely forgot to overlook was the Tokidokis, or at DCon, at any event that I'm at, Comic-Con, the Tokidoki line is always wrapped around. There's always a separate line. Okay, this line ends here. There's like a 20-foot break, and then you have to go over there. So that's a good point. I wasn't thinking of those. People go nuts for them.
That is very true. I'd never heard of Tokidoki before Veve, and just like you, I went to DCon, and like I mean, yeah, talk about like dedication to like they always want like the new ones or these. Yeah. So that's a good point too, right? I mean, there are a lot more of like the Myrmecornos or but yeah. Like I think it's unicornos and then I don't remember what the two different ones are, but I have I have all the sets of those, but of Tokidokis. I definitely should, now that you're saying that, probably just buy, and they're way cheap. They're way cheap now compared to what they were a year ago.
Yeah. So there is I want to kind of switch gears a little bit, but kind of keep it a little bit with Veve and OMI. When people raise kids, some people are a little more lax than others, like, oh, whatever the kid likes, they like, and then we'll go do that. But then, so there's some parents that are just like, yeah, whatever the kid likes, they like, but they're going to learn this. They're going to learn X, Y, and Z. Whether some people be like, they're going to learn how to fix their car, change their brakes, change the oil, do whatever. There's some guys that be like, I'm going to teach my kids how to fight just so they know it. Some people want second languages or third languages. Is there something that you would want to teach your kids that just like, hey, you like what you like? Oh, wow. I thought I was talking to myself for a minute, and I guess I was. Can you hear me? Yeah. I was so boring that he went away and everybody died. No, everyone's still here.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. So, well, I don't know what the last thing you heard was before you blipped.
Oh, what would I teach my kids? Right.
Yeah. So yeah, what is something that you're just like, hey, you're learning this?
Well, two things came to mind. They learn about Star Wars. No fans or buts. Like they will watch. I will indoctrinate them to Star Wars. I love Star Wars. But from like a physical activity thing, so I used to be a gymnast. And one of the things that I loved about it, like it served me well throughout my whole life, because I had a family member who was a professional snowboarder, and so they got me into snowboarding quite a bit. And like any activity I did, whether it's snowboarding, soccer, like gymnastics helped immensely in just like spatial awareness, knowing where your body and things are. So like I've got my daughter right now in gymnastics, and then so she'll go once a week, but then on Saturdays there's an open gym, and I'll take her, and then like I'm getting back into it little by little, and trying to work on my I want to get back my round off back handspring back tuck. So I can do that on the tumble track, which is kind of like a long trampoline, but I want to get it back on the floor, but that's going to take a little bit of time.
I don't know if we've talked about this before, but next time we're together, I kind of want to get you a little tipsy and have you show me your stuff. That sounded dirty. Show me like your gymnastic stuff.
I am the doctor of stuff. I can show you a lot of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, so speaking of Star Wars, what do you think we get for Star Wars Day in next week or in like 10 days, whatever it is?
Well, I think, for Star Wars Day, right? Because there was actually an accidental link where we know that Akbar, it's a trap, is coming to the app, which I'm getting him. I don't care. Like I'm gonna buy him. Like if he's $80, I'm gonna freaking buy him off the market. I mean the store, because I love Star Wars stuff, and I want, for me, that's part of the collectible that like. There's certain things that I'm like, I'm going to get that in the aftermarket. And there's things I'm like, I know that I can get it cheaper in the aftermarket or the secondary, but I'm getting it on the drop because I want it. I want that pristine mint just for me. But like, I think that we get, I think we get a comic. I mean, I think that's what happened last time, right? We got the Star Wars comic, but then like I think it's throughout the month that we're going to get more characters. But what I'm hoping for is the Millennium Falcon. That's what I want, man. I want the Millennium Falcon. Like we've seen the SS Enterprise, and like I'm not like a Trekkie. I watched it growing up, and I got the show okay, but Millennium Falcon to me, man, like I love that ship. Like, yeah. So many important things happen in that ship and with that ship. That I'm definitely hoping that they bring that on Star Wars Day. I would be stoked if that happened. What about you?
So I mean, I want Luke. I want to get people where I can give them their lightsabers. I want Ahsoka Tano. I want Mace Windu. I want Luke Skywalker. Give me somewhere where I can give them their lightsabers because I have the whole set and we don't have them yet. I don't care if we don't get Yoda. Give us baby, Din Grogu. I think those would be really, really dope. That being said, you have Vader, and then you have TIE fighters. If we get the Millennium Falcon, I would love Han Solo. I'd love Chewie. Oh, give me Chewie. Ugh. I don't know. What I'm really hoping is that it comes out around the same time as Marvel Mighties, because I really want to stack those Marvel Mighties. And obviously, if Star Wars comes out, nobody's going to give a fudge about the Mighties. So that means I can buy them all. They should come out around the same time. We do get Guardians of the Galaxy Mighties probably in like the next 10 days, 2 weeks, give or take. And then Star Wars Day, obviously, really close to that. So I'm very excited. And then obviously, yeah, General Akbar. Dude, if he comes animated, I don't even care if it does have animated, just as a trap. Just give me that. That'd be cool too.
Oh my gosh. If he came with animation and sound and said oh my gosh. I would watch that. So like I would make a video, right, of him saying that. I would overuse that. I would overuse that. Like, I mean, I already do like with just that so many times, just in like conversations, even with conversations sometimes, like I'm like, it's a trap. And like anyone who gets it right, like there's this immediate connection. I'm like, yeah.
So you just gave me an idea. Like you unlocked a core memory. And I don't know if you ever played Star Fox back in the day.
Yeah.
So you know how in the second level, when you go into the asteroid field, I think it's called Media. In like maybe like 30 seconds into the level, you have Peppy Hair that says, "It's quiet, too quiet. Be careful, it's a trap. Use bombs." If we could have both of those characters say it's a trap, oh god, I would love it.
That would be fun. That would be funny, dude.
Yeah. So I would also take have you seen The Mandalorian?
Oh, not the latest episode, like not the latest season, man. Life has been so busy. So I mean, I've gotten little tidbits, and then I'm like, I got to remember to forget that. Which luckily, so far that has worked. So I have not seen the second season of The Mandalorian.
Okay, so you haven't seen the second or the you see the first, second, but you haven't seen the third season.
Correct. I haven't seen the newest. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Correct.
All right, so I won't give away spoilers on what I want, but you'll know in like the last 2 episodes what I'll want. You'll know. Anyway, if I want to do this thing where I start to do like, I don't want to just have Taps on as my only bathtub guest. At some point, could I have you as a bathtub guest next time we're in the same city?
I've got to understand what this entails. What is this bathtub guest, bro? That does not sound interesting.
So it started off. So it started off as a joke where me and Taps were gonna have a spa day with Veve Fam Bam, Wendy, Sparky, some girl Brittany. And they were gonna like give us makeovers. They were gonna like shave us and put cucumbers on and just like, because we, guys, we don't really do that. And then Decon got so crazy, and they just like gave us like the stuff. Like here's your mask, here's your this. So like we're tired, we're gonna go. It's like, okay, me and Taps were just trying to like we were gonna do this ourselves, and it was like, you know what, this is a little homo. And then so of course I took it like to another level, like, okay, well, how about we make a podcast out of it and we record us? And he's like, that sounds even worse. Like, but it'll be awesome. And he's just like, I don't know, man. So after like a bunch of whiskey, I was like, you want to order pizza and get in the bathtub? And he's like, let's do it, man. So that podcast kind of lives in infamy. And I haven't. I don't think I've asked any. I've mentioned it to one other person that
You
had
really
said,
did it?
and
You did a podcast. You guys are in the same tub?
yeah, you didn't see it.
No, wait a second. Like, like in your birthday suits?
No, we had shorts on. We had
Okay. I was like, I'm out, bro. I'm out. Okay. Swim trunks. Yeah, man. Yeah, I'll do a bath podcast. Swim
okay.
trunks. Yeah. But
You
yeah,
guys
birthday
heard it. I
suit.
had a
I'm out.
verbal consent. When I was with Foster, we didn't have a tub in the
He doesn't
New York Comic Con. We didn't have a tub there. We just had a stand-in shower.
That's
But
funny.
we'll do we'll do that next time.
Yeah, man.
Uh,
I'll probably be like depending like next year. I try to go out to New York like once a year for something. I love New York. And so whether it's or NFT NYC or something or other, some other convention, commercial real estate or and like, there's a lot of other things that like I can try to get out there. So, or I will be a decon. I am planning on being a decon in LA. So
they're going to have they applied to be an exhibitor at Fan Expo in Toronto. I wouldn't be able to go to that because that's the same weekend as Tap's wedding. But when is that something that you would go to if you have the chance?
when is that? When is that?
I think that's August something.
If it's August, I've got like family reunions. Like August is booked for
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We're gonna leave it to Foster and Mark then to be the Canadians that go and record for us.
Represent. I like that.
Well, I guess Eva too. Eva's she's Canadian as well. She can go up there and give us. Yeah, we haven't met her yet.
Who's that?
Eva Veve.
Oh yeah, I miss her. I haven't seen her in a long time. She is awesome, and I love that you say it like Eva because every time I hear, it, I'm like, forever, Eva. She probably hates that, and has probably heard that for forever.
It probably has like a twitch from it, like.
Yeah, right. Like this, like eye twitch.
Tabs is still missed. I talked to him the other day. He'll come back at some point. He's just doing some wedding planning and all that.
Yeah.
Where is it? So you were talking about you'd like to go to New York once a year. Well, that's right now. What happens in a year or two when crypto starts kicking again and suddenly, your net worth goes up a little bit? Are you going to change that to like 3 times a year go to New York? Or is it going to be like you'll still keep it, still grind for now?
I mean, it just depends, man. Like I've never been like an extravagant spender or like even as my income's gone up over the years, like I could definitely be a lot more flashy than I am. I do love traveling though. So yeah, from a travel standpoint, it depends on how much crypto goes up, right? Like I am invested in a lot of projects and some of them haven't launched yet. Some of them are waiting for like more money to come into the space, but like they have enough runway where they can continue to build and hunker down for like 2-3 years if that's what's necessary, right? So I don't know. I guess it depends on the type of money that's flowing. I mean, if I could completely be financially independent, I'd probably go more than 3 times. So it just depends. But like I do try at least once a year. I love people watching. I love that hotel. I got that again right when you came and ate breakfast with us. Rain and I just like overlooking Times Square and just people watching and seeing all the different ads and bright lights and like you're close to Hell's Kitchen. And you can take the metro down to the financial district, Wall Street, and then the One Tower. I mean, there's just Central Park. Like, there's just so much to do. Like every time you go there, you can focus on something, and then by the time you get back to it again, it's been so long you've forgotten things. So, but I probably would go more often, especially to visit you, bro. Visit you.
Yeah. I can't, and this is why I don't think I can leave. At some point I think what I would like to do, because I cannot stand the cold. I'm so done with being cold. I really think This is my last year in New York. I've said that for like the last 3 years. I probably would try to get like a condo or something in New York, rent it out, but then leave like one room for me when I go to stay there. And when people are coming to New York, like okay, I'll travel up there, I'll stay in a condo, whatever. Um, I don't. I love the food, and there's good food everywhere, whether it's steakhouses, whether it's Serendipity NYC. I don't know if you've been there. They have like the greatest ice cream and shakes and all that stuff. Um, I get very fat there. The
Yeah.
I don't know about your palate. I feel like when we get a lot of pizza, but what is your palate really like? What is your ideal meal that you could get all the time?
All the time, I can't do anything all the time, man. But like I absolutely love Thai food. I
Okay.
love Thai food. When I was in Thailand, like I love it here. And then I went to Thailand and here's a quick story. So my wife and I went on this round the world trip back in like 2015. We hit like seven, eight, 9 countries. I can't remember, but literally around the world, right? And one of the stops was Thailand, and we went to Bangkok and Phuket and Chiang Mai. And Chiang Mai is the food capital of Thailand. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I hate cooking so much, but I would be willing to learn how to cook some dishes, some Thai dishes in Thailand. Yeah, I'm like, let's do it. So I like do this research, and I find this one that kind of fits in our schedule. And I call up and they're like, we only got one spot. I'm like, please, it's my wife and I. Like, I'd really love to go. And they're like, okay, we'll let you do it. So, and it was like $35 a person. And they taught you like, maybe it's $50, 35, $50, something like that. But like, they taught you 7 different dishes, right? It was like a 6 or 7 hour thing. She takes you shopping in a market looking for stuff. And like, these are the types of vegetables or the meat. This is how I test it, right? But like, so I've done this research, kind of, and I say that because I walk in to this like little cooking setup, and it's like a pretty nice place in Thailand, and I was like, wow, and I see these newspapers like all around of our instructor. And like there's an article about her, and it's like in Portuguese, and it's this Brazilian newspaper, and then there's this article in Japanese from this Japanese newspaper, and then I see a picture of her with Gordon Ramsay, and I was like, oh, that's so cool, you met Gordon Ramsay. And like me, like just not even thinking, right? I was like, oh, did he teach you Thai to cook Thai?
No, where did he go? Okay, there he is.
We back?
Hello, does he? Waiting for the drop
Randy?
stuff. Yeah, okay, there we go. All right, so you asked her if he taught her, but then I'm guessing there's a story.
Are you there?
Yep, I'm here. You had just asked her if he had taught her about Thai food.
Hold on, let me try something.
Okay, hang on. Oh, he's over there now. I like his lamp. That is a nice lamp. Yeah.
Man, do you copy?
Oh, I copy. I hear you. I think you left. You're on the other side of the room. Bruh, smarty pants. You know what I'm about, son.
Hello?
I can still hear you, like very clearly. But or I heard you clearly until you went away, and now you are getting the Wi-Fi treatment. Ooh.
Randy?
Yep, I can still hear you. Can you hear me? Yeah, Randy. We're experiencing some technical difficulties. We may have to reconvene at another time. Yes, I said yeah. Ooh, okay. Let me give him a quick text and be like, oh, hey, I'm going to reboot real quick. Okie dokie. So he's going to reboot. I don't know why Okie autocorrects to orientation. I went to type in okie dokie and it came out orientation dokie. Dude, autocorrect, like sometimes so the other day, me and a buddy were talking about something like type of food. Like they had texted me, I made this. and I was messaging them, like food with like 3 or 4 M's, however much, and it auto corrected to mommy, and then I was like, oh no. So I was like, oh, because you know how you can call like baddies mommy now, it's like, oh, mommy, especially when they're super jacked, and then girls are like muscle mommies, and it's like it gets really weird. Like the world is a very strange place right now. Like things are becoming more acceptable than like just at a quicker rate, and I don't know if I could handle it. I I forget what it was the other day where I didn't know the word, so I searched it on TikTok, and all I saw was like these dudes that were very flamboyant with like a finger in the mouth going like this, and it was supposed to be a dance, but there was no. It wasn't like a dance. It wasn't like, oh, hey, some of these TikTok dances where it's like, that's really cool. I love the choreography. It was just, and I was like, I don't know what that is. Oh,
Dude, I don't know why I didn't just switch to my phone.
yeah, this is perfect.
I can finally see you. You've been a black screen for like the last hour. Awesome. Okay, so I walk in, right, and like I see all these newspapers, this picture of her and Gordon Ramsay. I'm like, oh, like, did he teach you Thai? And she's like, no, I taught him Thai. And I'm like, wait a second, like, who are you? And turns out she's like this world famous chef. Okay, like she's charging $35 per person, and I'm like,
That's
it's
so cheap.
phenomenal. Oh, it's crazy. And I'm like, she was a judge on Iron Chef twice. Like she's literally gone around the world, and she's like, I've made my money. This is just something I love to do. Like she had her own like cooking show in Thailand, right? And I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, you could move to New York and literally charge $10,000 per person
Yeah.
for this exact same thing. And she's like, I know, I don't want to. And I was like, so if you guys ever if you're going to Thailand and Chiang Mai, she actually has an online cooking course now that I think is like $25 per person, and like they'll teach you stuff. But anyways, man, so Thai food, that is the longest answer to your question about if I could have any food, man. Thai food is probably what it would be. You know,
That's, I guess at some point you reach that inflection point where not that money doesn't matter, but like, hey, I have enough to pay the bills, I have more money than I know what to do with. And you just want to have that preservation of Thai food, especially if you're really good at it. Like it's kind of like different ways of fighting. Yeah, this coach is okay and he can teach you some basics, but if you like someone that maybe has a lot of money and they don't want to charge that much because that would limit the amount of people that can learn their specific art. Yeah, I understand that. That makes a lot of sense.
yeah, yeah. I was like shocked when I found out like who she really was. I was like, I feel like this is like a scam or something. There's no way that this is this cheap and you're who you say you are, you know? And
Yeah.
but yeah, like it was phenomenal. So, but what about you, man? What is it one food that you could just like devour
Oh,
all the
I
time?
mean, so if I so I don't have you ever watched Supernatural?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, so are you caught up with it? Like, did you watch all of it, or you watched a couple seasons?
Bro, like I probably watched like 12 seasons and then like I
Oh,
was like, I don't think this is ever gonna end. Like so I'm like,
okay,
yeah.
so I won't spoil this for you, but spoilers if you haven't seen past like
Wait,
season five
is
or
it finally done?
yeah, yeah, 15 seasons. It's done finally.
Okay, I've watched like 10 or 11 seasons, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So in one of the not earlier seasons, but in like season 7 or whatever, whatever season it is, when Bobby
Yeah.
dies, you
Yes.
see
Yeah.
you see him in a later season in heaven, and in heaven
Yeah.
he is sitting on a reclined chair, has like a glass of whiskey, and is reading the Bible, and like
I,
that's his heaven. He's just, I feel like my heaven would be similar in the fact that I would have a giant drink of whiskey, but would also have this amazing steak, just like a nice 16-ounce steak, and just going ham on it with some like mashed potatoes and lobster mac and cheese and asparagus. I could, oh, and just some good people, good conversation. I could do that every single night. Um, I will say though that obviously that costs a lot, especially in America, like especially like good steak, whether it's like
Mhm.
Teller's or God, what's the name of that famous one? And in New York City. I forget what it's called. I'm thinking Peter Thiel, but obviously that's not what it's called.
We've been talking about Peter Thiel, but no.
Yeah, whatever it's called, that famous steakhouse in New York City. I mean, there's a couple of them, but I would love that. But when I was in Mexico last month or a couple weeks ago, and you get some really good food, and it's super cheap in Mexico. Like I was at a club one night, and it was I think for a table with bottle service, I think it was like it wasn't even $1,000 for like a whole bunch of people, and like that type of thing would cost you like $6,000 in New York City. Um, yeah, I love other places where things are so much cheaper, and I don't know. Could you live somewhere else like that's not the U.S. just because of how cheap it is? Like maybe, $1 or $2 million, when we all make that is like maybe it's not a ton in New York or in the States, but going to like places in Europe, like my friend, you just mentioned Thailand. My friend Eric went to Thailand. I think for food, fighting lessons because he was learning Muay Thai, and a place to stay, it was like $400 a month, and I was like, what? Now, granted, that was like 10 years ago, but still. Um, did you stay anywhere that's not the U.S.?
I could live in Spain. I've lived there before. Southern Spain is wonderful. The people there are just
Beautiful.
they're beautiful people. I love their culture, man. They're so family oriented, but like just laid back, probably to a fault, bro. I swear I never saw anyone work in Southern Spain. I was like, how does anything get done? How does anything get done over here? Like I would go walk past construction sites, and like so there's this kind of thing all of the old people there, like okay, so many of the people in Spain like have some derivation of the name Francisco, and the nickname for Francisco is Paco, right? And then Maria, like Maria was a very, very common name too, but it'd be like Maria de los Dolores, del Buzon. Like, I mean, like, I don't know, like it was just like the longest names of Maria. And so like, we always typically called like the older generation, like Marias and Pacos. Right. And so you had these Pacos that were retired, and they would just like straight up just sit there and like watch. And sometimes it was like I would be driving, and it's like midnight, bro, pitch black. Because in some of these smaller cities, right, like there's no street lights and stuff. So like
Yeah.
my car lights would come across, and all of a sudden I'd be like, ah, dude, there's this Paco sitting in his rocking chair, and I'm like, you can't see anything. What are you doing out here? And like literally scare the crap out of me. And then but they would watch these construction sites, and I walk past them in the morning, and they'd be there, and no one's working on the construction site. And then I walk past them at night, and they're still watching the construction site, and I'm like, possibly there was construction that went on some point during this day, but these Pacos have not left this spot. And I'm like, when do people work? And then you have to throw in the siesta during the middle of the day, which wrecked me, by the way. When I came back to the U.S. and I was like in college, like 2 o'clock would happen, and I'm like in lecture, and I was like, I was like, an hour later, I was like, what I missed, and I'm like clearing the drawer. I was like, it was so hard to come back from. I love the culture of Spain. I love the food in Spain. The people. I love European soccer, man. Like, I really gained a love for it there because they just eat, drink, breathe, and sleep that sport there, and so it is impossible to not catch that, that the soccer fever, that euphoria living there. So, yeah, Spain for me. If I could live anywhere abroad, it would probably be Spain.
Yeah, I only spent a couple days there like years ago, but I have nothing bad to say about it. I really want to go back. And again, I think the most beautiful people in the world. They are just whew, whew, get a little hot. I concur. I concur with your sentiment. So we've been going for almost an hour and a half. Anything that you wanted to bring up before we bounce? I think any other stuff that we haven't touched on that you think we should?
Well, did you want to talk about, because we kind of teased that about finance and what's going on with
Oh yeah, in the world. So you have all these countries Singapore, Taiwan, China, that are just India, that are just buying gold. And because a lot of countries they're not doing deals. I mean, BRICS has most of their deals were done in the yuan or rupee anyway, but now they're saying no deals are being done in the dollar. You have like 16 other countries that are going to apply to become part of BRICS. I think this is like a coalition against the US saying like, hey, we're tired of you dominating the world. We're tired of you tying the dollar to oil. And I mean, and then you have on top of that, Saudi Arabia is not really friendly towards Biden, where they would have 100% answered the call when every time Trump was calling. And it seems like now that they're kind of not. I don't know, some of this stuff, and I might be a little doomsday-ish here. Bring me back to reality, or just say like, Chavez, you're right. I don't know. So give me something here.
I mean, I do think that there's kind of like an attempt at a coup of the dollar being like the reserve currency, right, of the world. And I mean, you have like, I think I just read something. It was like China and Russia, or China and India, or something like that. So like 80% of their trade deals now are done in the yuan.
Yeah.
And so like, look, the U.S. dollar being the reserve currency of the world, like there's pros and cons that come with that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I definitely think that they're trying to do that. I think that's another thing with China trying to get a CBDC out and be the first one to do that and try to establish it so that they can be the dominant force there. It will change our economy in the way that the imports and exports. If the dollar becomes cheaper, then imports are more expensive. But like people might want we might start exporting more stuff than we have in the past, right? So I don't know, like economies can change, and there's a lot of responsibility that comes along with that, and I don't know, like there's a lot there. But so I was going to tell you, like, I don't know if you have time, if you want to, right? But kind of talk about uh, the whole bank failure stuff that happened in the U.S. and how that kind of came about, because I feel like there's been some narratives that don't make a lot of sense.
There's a lot. We can talk about consequences of it, but yeah, how did it come about? Was the investors asleep at the wheel? Was it the investors that were asking questions, but like was fraud going on? Give us your report. Give us your diagnosis. How did all of these banks, go kaput?
So it starts when the Fed begins to raise interest rates, right? As they're starting to kind of try to combat inflation, they start raising rates, and what that does is, I mean, it does a lot of things. But so let's touch on. Well, there's a couple things. So you have Silvergate Bank, right, which didn't fail, and there's a narrative. You'll hear that every once in a while where they're like, "Oh, Silvergate Bank failed." It's like they didn't fail. They unwound themselves, which is completely different. Meaning no uninsured deposits were lost. They just unwound and ceased to be a bank. But part of that, like we know that Silvergate was very crypto friendly, and a lot of the problems had to have stemmed from when the FTX failure. And I don't know if you remember back on Twitter though, but people were like, "Get your money off of exchanges."
Yeah.
No exchange is safe. Look, these centralized exchanges, and so what happens if you have a bank that's crypto friendly and they're banking a lot of the crypto space, which would be like, if they were banking stablecoin makers, or because we know that US, wasn't it US? No, not USD. Well, USDC. That was at Silicon Valley Bank, right? Or Signature Bank. But anyways, so they're crypto friendly, and people start pulling money off exchanges. Like, so what happens though is sometimes people will park their money in cash at the exchange, right? So they haven't bought a crypto, or they bought a crypto and then they've sold it, and now it's just sitting in cash in their deposit account. Well, that cash is actually sitting at some bank, right? So if you have a bank that has a high concentration in the crypto space, and they're banking customers that are exchanges, and then the word gets out like, hey, pull your money out of exchanges. Well, then all of a sudden, all of these deposits that the bank has run out of the bank, right? But like they still have like, and at some point we know that banking is a fractional reserve system. So you put in $1 deposit and I lend out $5 or I lend out $10, right? So if you get a big run on the deposits like that, that can cause some significant issues, like the cash flow issues. Now, we haven't had, like, there was a liquidity failure in 2008, I want to say, or 2000, no, maybe it was like 2010. I think it was called Proficio Bank. 2010, 2011, I don't know, around there. Like, but like before then, we hadn't had a liquidity failure, an actual liquidity failure from like a run on a bank in a long time. And all of a sudden, there was these major concerns with Silvergate Bank, and I think that like with all of that FTX stuff and that people panicking and pulling deposits out, they were like, look, like we were able to save ourselves, but like maybe this business profile isn't going to work where we just focus on crypto, right? So then there's this concern and there's talk about Silvergate, they called it quits and it was because of crypto, or like there's these reasons behind that. Then you have Silicon Valley Bank, and their niche is venture capital and startups, right? The tech companies. And so a couple of things. Silicon Valley Bank, their assets, they grew substantially over a 2-year period. And I forget the numbers, but it's like billions and billions, just like very quickly over a 2-year time frame, which that in and of itself creates a lot of risk. If you have a company, whether it's a bank or just like any company, when you grow that quickly, your culture has a hard time staying intact. Policies and procedures, there's so many things that can fall through the crack, can become very dangerous, right? So that's already a red flag of like just that massive growth. But what happens is the Fed starts raising interest rates, right? That impacts your startups because as they go to start raising money, the cost of capital is a lot more. And so because these venture capital groups are like, well, now that interest rates have risen, the treasury market, like that's looking more appetizing, and it's way less risky than investing in new startups, right? So these startups had raised all of these funds and they put it into and these are some of my assumptions, right? Just because of the industry that they were in. But like, okay, so we take all of these funds as a startup and we put it in the bank. But then startups burn through cash like crazy. And you could look at Silicon Valley Bank. So there's a thing called like the Uniform Bank Performance Report. And it kind of can go break it down quarter by quarter. And what that does is it allows investors, banks have to report substantially the same numbers so you can compare apples to apples on things, right? So investors can look at this and be like, oh, assets here mean the same thing that assets here, like core deposits, total deposits, uninsured deposits. You can compare apples to apples, right? So every quarter, these banks are putting out these financials, and it's rolled up into it. Well, first a call report or a condition of income, and which they call the call report, or this Uniform Bank Performance Report. So I looked at it over the last year, and just like each quarter, the total deposits of Silicon Valley Bank were declining by billions every single quarter, right? And there's reasons for that. My assumptions are, number one, that you start having these tech firms that are like, well, wait a second, you're only paying me, 50 basis points on my $10 million, but the Fed's raising rates. And so all of these other banks are raising their deposit rates. You're not. So I'm leaving to chase that yield, right?
Yeah.
And so you start having funds leaving that way. And then you have these startups that are burning through cash and they're not replenishing it because they can't get additional raises, right? So there's a compounding effect of deposits leaving the bank. But they're not raising their rates, like their deposit rates, like everyone else. And you're like, why aren't they doing that? Well, then you go over and you look at the assets, because the deposits are on the liability side. You look at the assets and it's like, you have a substantial portfolio of like long-term U.S. treasuries. And what happens there is if you buy a U.S. treasury, a 10-year treasury, and you've locked in a 2% rate, maybe that was 3 years ago, right? Let's say you do $10 billion, $12 billion, $15 billion on 10-year treasuries, and they're at 2%. And then the Fed starts raising the rate. That means that the market is like, why would I want your $10 billion worth of treasuries if you ever have to sell it at 2% when the market's offering me 5% now?
Yeah.
Oh, if you want to sell those, you're going to have to give me a substantial discount, right? So with banking, there's what's called an available for sale portfolio. And then you have a held to maturity portfolio. Okay. And available for sale is like, hey, at any point in time, if we need liquidity or for whatever reason, we can sell these. But what they have to do is they have to market to market, an accounting term where basically like, okay, well, these 10-year treasury bonds, they're at a discount. The market will have to pay a discount. So they're not worth as much if I have to sell it today because the market's paying more, right? But they're because they haven't sold it, they're not actually taking a loss, but that unrealized loss flows over into their capital numbers.
Okay.
So what you started to see is certain banks be like, we don't want that to impact our capital, so we're going to move it over to our held to maturity portfolio. And the magic, wonderful accounting rules say, if you have the intent and the capacity or willingness to hold these to maturity, then you don't have to report in your capital numbers that unrealized loss. Now, it'll still show up. You can dig into the call report and it'll show, there's a section that will show these unrealized losses, but those losses aren't reflected in capital, right? So if someone's just looking at the UBPR and they're looking at like the available for sale or that mark to market there, if it's in the held to maturity portfolio, they don't have to do anything. They have to dig deeper with that, right? So what happens with Silicon Valley Bank? There's this timeline of things, right? The Fed's raising rates, deposits are going down, right? And so they're having to make up that liquidity somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
And at some point, like, and this is a cash flow problem because it's a reserve, like a fractional reserve system, where they're like, we're gonna have to increase our borrowings. But if they raise their deposit rates to stop the outflow of deposits higher than what they're earning on that $12 billion worth of treasury bonds, right? Then they're starting to hemorrhage cash, which they need to pay out the deposits that are also hemorrhaging, right? So investors are seeing this. They're starting to see this happen, right? And then in March, early March, well, first of all, Moody starts talking about downgrading their stock, right? Which was kind of like the markets are like, oh, like, well, what's going on there? And because the Moody analysts are looking at these financials and saying, things aren't as good, they're not terrible, but like they're not as good as they could be. So we're looking at downgrading this, potentially a double downgrade on the stock. And so that catches wind. So then Silicon Valley Bank is like, they make this co-announcement with Goldman Sachs, and they're like, hey, we're going to sell $21 billion of almost lost my train of thought with Mike's comment. $21 billion of our available for sale securities portfolio at a $1.8 billion loss. So then the market is like, wait, what? Why? But in the same announcement, they say, oh, and by the way, we want to raise $2.5 billion worth of capital. And any investor is like, there is something serious going on. If you need that much liquidity, if you're willing to take a $1.8 billion hit to sell these securities, and you're also raising capital, because that's the other way. Capital is also that kind of last buffer for liquidity too, right? So like if they're trying to stabilize these deposits, well, then you get Peter Thiel, and Peter Thiel's like, he's got his founders fund, and the founders fund apparently sends out a message to all of these other institutions, and they're like, pull your money out. So this is where social media comes into play, right? So in 2008, during the recession, when there was bank failures, you saw the pictures of people lined up outside the bank trying to get their money, right? Well, now I can literally be like, download Bank of America, open up an account, show them my driver's license, open it up in 30 minutes, and then transfer my funds immediately. Like, 30 minutes, and I can transfer. And like, if I'm a company, like, and I want to like open, I can open up and I can transfer. And a lot of times they have multiple bank accounts, right? And they're just like, I'm just going to shift my funds $20 million out, $30 million out. And then all of a sudden you have all of these venture capital groups that are hearing, pull your money out of Silicon Bank, because here's the last part of the whole story for Silicon Valley Bank is the amount of uninsured deposits, right? So if you have over $250,000 per account ownership type at a bank, those are uninsured, right? And so if you have $10 million, there's a substantial amount that if the bank goes under, you would lose. And as a company, you can't do that, right? So you're like, if there's even a chance, I can't risk that. I'm going to pull my money out, right? And so then there's this compounding effect, and all of this money is flowing out of the bank. As this is all like all of these things, and it started from the Fed raising rates, right? And causing like the treasury bond, the value of those treasury bonds that they held to decline in value, for people to start chasing those rates and leaving, and then also for your venture, your startup companies to not be able to raise capital. So all this compounds, right? Silicon Valley Bank goes under. And then all of a sudden, people are like, well, wait a second, what other banks have similar balance sheet structures?
And
Signature
short the crap
Signature
out of them.
Bank, Signature Bank looks like they have a lot of uninsured deposits. They have ties to the crypto space. And even though like Silvergate was able to unwind, like what's going on there, right? And then the panic starts there, and there's a contagion effect that starts to happen. And then you start seeing like, are there other banks with this balance sheet? And people start panicking, right? Well, so then you see the FDIC and the Federal Reserve be like, all right, there's some major panic in the market. Otherwise, these banks that like otherwise are still earning money and making money, right? Like they could fail because of liquidity, just because of the panic in the market. So that's when the FDIC comes in and says, we're going to insure all of the deposits at Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank. And then on top of that, the Fed comes in and says, we've created this bank term funding program, that all of those available for sale securities, or those longer treasury bonds, if you need to borrow against it, we'll let you borrow dollar for dollar. There will be no haircut whatsoever. So if you have a $10 billion securities portfolio of 10-year treasury bonds that the market is saying is only worth 8 billion, well, we'll still lend you 10 billion, right? Now you're going to pay for that. There's going to be a cost to that, but like that will shore up the liquidity. And when those both stepped in and did that, I think that's what's basically kind of calmed the markets down so that people felt confident. And look, like you had First Republic Bank, where like a consortium of banks were like, we feel like deposits are being drawn down from First Republic Bank, and we don't think that that's right because it's just a panic in the market. And they took all of those funds that had deposits that had flowed out of the Silicon Valley and Signature Bank into their banks, and they just shifted those back into First Republic Bank, like $30 billion worth, right? So anyways, that was, I think that's never been done before. But so anyways, I just thought it'd be cool to just do like a little bit of a breakdown. And like you have Barney Frank saying that like, oh, it was because of crypto and that's why they shut us down. And it's like, bro, like, first of all, the FDIC doesn't shut down banks. Like the government, federal government doesn't shut down banks. It's the state banking regulators that go in and they actually pull the banking charter. So it's nothing to do with the federal government, right? So like, anyways, just in talking about like, oh, this is crypto and it's this counter crypto thing. Like, look, I'm pro crypto, but like that narrative, it doesn't make sense when you look at the numbers there. So yeah, I just
So
wanted to give that breakdown.
how much was initially taken out of these banks? There's like 5 of them, right? How much money was taken out of them?
I mean, we don't actually know, right? Because like we would have to see the
The reason why I was asking is because, or even like an estimate, I'm just trying to figure out where that money went. I had a buddy of mine that works at JP Morgan and Chase. Oh God, he's gone again. Okay, there you go. You're back.
Okay, sorry, man. I'm just gonna move closer to the freaking window. You can see
Oh,
my old school hotel. But so we don't actually know how many deposits left, because the only way we see those things is through the financial the financial reports that are done on a quarterly basis. So Silicon Valley Bank failed on like March 9th. And so the call report, what happens is at March 31st, that would be that financial reporting date, but they don't actually have to publish that, make it public until 30 days after is the deadline to publish those. And so we don't know how many deposits, but we can assume, if you have Peter Thiel saying, pull all of your deposits out, like, I mean, there's a liquidity fail. So billions, it had to have been billions, because you can look at like the balance sheet and just say, all right, like how much cash on hand, what are your treasuries? Oh, and here's another thing that's important too, just in general about liquidity risk management, is like institutions are supposed to have like contingent liquidity fund plans, right? Just like, oh, if crap hits the fan, here's how we're going to get additional liquidity, right? And they do stress tests and things like that on that. But sometimes, like, it can take a while to convert assets, right? So like, oh, I want to sell available $20 billion worth of my securities portfolio. Well, depending on what those what's in that securities portfolio, there might be certain things that take longer. Or, hey, I actually want to pledge these loans as collateral, or these securities as collateral, because I don't want to sell them at a loss. Like, that can take time, right? And if you've got billions of dollars leaving your door on a daily basis, if it takes you 3 days to convert those to collateral to get the borrowings you need, you could fail, right? So like, that's one of the things that I would look at like Silicon Valley Bank and be like, you should have laddered your maturities way better. You can't have a massive chunk at such a long time frame, because it gets into this interest rate risk and sensitivity to market risk, that can wreck you, and it wrecked them, but yeah, billions of dollars would be has to be the assumption there. But like the exact dollar amount, or if I couldn't say if it was 40 billion, 50 billion, 100 billion, like, I don't know.
So the reason why I was asking is because, I mean, I think 100 billion is a lot. I think that's a good amount. But the reason I was asking because I had a buddy of mine that works for JP Morgan and Chase, and he has, in the last couple months, they've taken in, I think about 700 million, give or take. So if, let's say, all the big four banks, is even throughout them all, and they all took 700 million each. Okay, well, that's 2.8 billion. If you have 10 billion that was taken out, and only 2.8 billion were put into these, the big four, the bigger banks, where's the rest of that money going? And I'm really curious to see if people are buying real estate, or they're buying gold and silver, or they're buying crypto, and and why maybe that's a reason that Bitcoin kind of had a nice little run, because, hey, stuff's going down, let me put it in Bitcoin. I don't know what you make of that. I don't know if you just think like, it's probably not the case, or if it's like, oh, that could be a good explanation why.
I do think that there was probably a contingent of people that are just like, you know what, like, why not put this into crypto, into Bitcoin. Now, I mean, yeah, some hedge funds, maybe some venture capital groups that are like, maybe we'll source some of our money there. One thing that I will say too, right, is like, and I said 40 billion, 50 billion, it might not have been anywhere near that, because all that has to happen for liquidity failure is the moment that your actual cash that you have on hand cannot meet the latest withdrawal request, it fails, right? So like, I mean, even if it was like, hey, I need $20, and you're like, we got securities, and it's just gonna take us another day, and then we can pay you the $20. Done. You're done. You can't meet your cash letter, you failed. Now, I mean, it's not going to be that small of amount, right? But like, if it was like $1 million, because you got to think like, because the other thing is the FDIC, when they come in, like, they're insuring these banks, right? And like, they're trying to recoup for the depositors that they're paying out. They want everyone to get paid out, and they love to. And sometimes when banks fail, even the uninsured deposits can get paid out, right? Even though they're uninsured, they're just like the last in line, right? And so if there's enough assets for them to unwind, then they can get bailed out. But So I don't know. When I say 10 billion, it might not have been anywhere near that. Maybe it was only 2.8 billion dollars that
Yeah.
left before they couldn't meet their cash letter, and then the state banking charter. I mean, state banking regulators come in and they say we're pulling the charter. Then they hand over resolutions, the receivership responsibility to the FDIC, right? And so, but that definitely could have been like this pump, because it kind of, we started to see that increase in Bitcoin as this has kind of occurred, right? Like,
Yeah.
so March 9th was Silicon Valley, and then I think like March 12th was Signature Bank, and then we started to kind of see this rise in crypto pretty soon after, right? That's kind of gone on for the last month. So, like, there's definitely correlation. I don't know if it's causation, but there's definitely enough information to say circumstantial evidence could say that may have been the case. But that's the best I could say.
Yeah. And I mean, you're obviously, you have education in both worlds, and banking and in crypto. Let's say you get a windfall. Great Uncle Murray dies, leaves you 100K. Where do you put it? I mean, you're very diversified already. You're in a bunch of different projects. You got a little bit of OMI, you got a little bit of Veve. Where do you think is the safest place to put it? You're getting T-bills of like 4 or 5%. You think Bitcoin? Are you a little more speculative with it? Yeah, like curious what you do with it. Maybe not the safest route, but where you think would be good.
I mean, I definitely would put some money into Bitcoin. I mean, and Bitcoin, but then also probably more in ETH than
Yeah.
Bitcoin. Because ETH has it. I mean, Bitcoin long term has a security problem. Um, they've got to find out a way to secure, to basically continue to be able to pay the miners. And this might be 20, 30 years, 50 years from now, right? But like long term, there's an issue, and hopefully they solve it. But just because of that, I would put more into ETH. I think that ETH still has a substantial way to grow. So there would be that. I would definitely put some into the banking system. I mean, whether it's T-bills, the money markets, that's another place that they went, is the money markets, right? When you're like, where'd the money go? Not even necessarily at banks, but like money markets to earn a higher yield. So yep, I kind of invest. I would buy some real estate, but then I might go, like, I would probably start doing some larger pre-seed invest.
Oh no, where you at, girl? Girl, can you still hear me? Is he frozen for anyone else? Is it just me? There you are.
No, so I'd probably do some, like, really work my way into like the angel seed rounds of certain projects that I believed in, right? And trying to help grow the crypto space, and being like, I want to fund some of these projects and get them off the ground, because I think that they have a strong use case. And so yeah, what about you?
Uh, yeah, seed funding would be great because I mean, I like to think I can see a good idea, or I know a good idea when I see one. And even if let's say I do really bad and 7 out of 10 fail, okay, well if three of them are doing really well, then that should take care of the losses of the other seven. And I don't really have to work. Other people are doing the work, which would be really cool. But if I were to, I don't know, an extra 100K, I mean, like I more OMI and I get some grails on Veve. Yeah, Bill Gunner, you got it right. Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
I love
just
that so much.
I mean, why not? I mean, there's 100 good reasons why I shouldn't. Okay, you have enough. You're completely over leveraged. Buy a little bit of ETH. Buy a little bit of Bitcoin. Most of the top 10. Heck, even get Doge. Um, dude, I heard about Pepe when it first came out. I was like, should I? Nah. And then it bumped like 80%. I was like, oh man. I love Pepe. I love that whole meme frog. Like, you ever go on 4chan?
No, I never have.
Oh, it's so they have boards for everything. They have like a political board. They have a board for anything that you could think of. They have random board. But there's one thing, the story that came up on my Facebook memories I want to read you. And it's basically how most of 4chan is. So this story is from 2017. It takes like 30 seconds to read. So be me. Be around 2007. Want to become one of those cool people I see on the internet that just say, meh, when something bad happens. So family's eating at some restaurant. So I hatch a plan to have my drink tip over and say, meh, afterwards. So I swipe up my glass and it fucking flies across the room, splattering everywhere. Catches me off guard, so I scream, meh, like some downy, and the entire restaurant goes quiet and stares. And the family huddles around me to try to calm me down, as if I had some sort of mental breakdown. Luckily, I didn't have to go to counseling after that. That's the energy. That's the type of people around 4chan. But they have this really weird. They have this like weird community that like some of them are devs, that a lot of them are really tech savvy. They had this one group called I think it was called Weaponized Autism, where Shia LaBeouf had gone on and he had posted like a flag somewhere. So like he will not divide us. Like I don't know who he was. I think maybe he was talking about Trump, but like within a day, like they found out where this flag was. And so he goes like in the middle of nowhere in this random field, Shia LaBeouf, and he posts this flag with a camera pointing at it, saying he will not divide us. And I think within like 2 days, based on like what time it got dark at night, okay, it's going to be in this part of the country. They looked at the stars, they looked at the aircraft flying by, and like, okay, what flights are going on this time? And eventually when they kind of found the area in which it was, they had some dude go around honking his horn to see like if they could hear it on the stream, and so they found it. And I was like, what? So this was like 2015 maybe.
That's
And that's
insane.
when I first got impressed with them. And then in 2016, when I was in Kuwait, there was a random like ISIS training video that like went on the internet, and we got like an email about it saying, hey, new ISIS recruitment video. And I saw it. It was god awful. But in the video, you see like these 3 oil like things in the background. And someone on 4chan is like, hey, I figured out where this is. And I was like, oh my God, like, okay. So I told my captain that was there at the time, and she's like, okay, I don't like, she was reservist. I don't know if she actually did what she said she was gonna do. She's like, yeah, I'll send it up the chain. And then like after a couple days, nothing was done. And then someone from the Russian side of the military, like in there, was like, I'll take care of this. And then like 2 days later, they bombed the fudge out of it, and I was like, no freaking way. It was freaking wild. It was 2016 was a wild time. But yeah, that's 4chan. I forget why I was talking about this. Oh, Pepe. So sorry, I just went off on the.
Of course, that's like Pepe 4chan.
Yeah, because like that's his like. So that's just the thing. He became a meme of just like sad frog, like, and whenever something bad happens, like I dropped my chicken nuggets, sad Pepe, something like that. And for what, and people on the right, or not on the right, people on 4chan, they joke about things that really should not be joked about, but it's so funny. And they were joking about like just randomly liberals or the left one day, and they go at everybody, but one day they just had me going at the left. And like Hillary Clinton in like a speech, and she's like, well, the alt-right have signaled this Pepe the Frog as their as their mascot. So as she's saying this, someone in the crowd goes, Pepe! And I was like, no. So ever since then, I want to get a tattoo of Pepe. Like if there's any other meme coin I wanted to invest in, it would be Pepe. And that's my like autistic 3-minute tangent on it. So yeah.
Look, here's the thing about meme coins, right? And like I saw Pepe and I was like probably when I saw it, from the point I saw the time I saw it, like to like its all-time high, I think it went like still like a 5x, right? Yeah. And like here's the thing about meme coins, if they can catch the right narrative, and that's why Gensler kind of took off too, right? Like because just right after like the whole thing and all the crypto, like if you can get the crypto people like to buy in, Pepe is perfect. Like I think they'll rug eventually.
Yeah, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll be a Dogecoin. It's like this useless token that just somehow still has substantial value. But 99.9% of meme coins rug. In fact, there was just a recent Zaxby tweeted about this, right? Like with the knock what is it, the NFT. Anyways, I'm blanking on that, but the math lady meme coin, and the token symbol was math, and they're like, we're doing this like pre-raise for it, like send your money here, and then they were like, actually, it's going to be a little bit more like to hit the cap to get the token, and they probably sold 60 ETH, right, and then never launched the token and stuff. Like there's rugs all over the place, but that if I hate like meme coins in general. I mean, I don't hate them. Like whatever, you can make money and it's gambling and it can be fun and a diversion from the bear market. But like for me, if I was to go for meme coins, that's what I'm looking for. Is like, does it hit a sweet spot that everyone in crypto who's been in crypto understands and be like, yeah, Pepe. Like everyone knows Pepe, right? Like, and if they can hit that narrative, like, and the token's already launched, don't ever do like a pre raise of a meme coin, but yeah, then potentially, but that's funny, Pepe. Wait, so did you buy some Pepe then?
I did not. I wanted to. Fartcoin is run by this person I had on the podcast. I am Rena, and they're extraordinarily competent and they're very technologically savvy. Fartcoin, it's called like the burn to rising floor token. It's really interesting. Like when you sell, it burns. When you buy, it burns. Like it's called rising floor token. Like the floor always rises. It's really cool. The tokenomics are really dope. I had them on the podcast for like a couple hours, and it was great. But I didn't buy Pepe. God, everyone can rug. Like CNN freaking rug their product. Like that was disgusting. That's why you don't trust government, or I know they're not government, but they're kind of government.
Yeah. State funded.
Yeah.
Did Elon tag CNN
69% government funded? Yeah, I love him so much.
That's so funny.
All right, so we have been going on for about that 2-hour mark.
Yeah, man, I'm good.
It goes by so quickly, man. I fucking love talking to you.
I laughed so much during the stream, man. The comments are they're gems, and that's what I love, man. Look, there's all this FUD, and like one thing that you're definitely a moon boy, and you own that to the T, and I love that, man. You're just like, no, like I have the faith, and you're gonna do this, but just the people that are drawn to you, like they're fun, man. They're funny, they're fun, they're positive. I love that. I love that energy. I love your energy, bro. It is always a blast to chat with you, and this did go by super fast.
Yeah, despite all the technical difficulties, we're good.
I know. I'm sorry, man.
Oh, dude, it's
I
not
didn't
your
realize
fault.
it was gonna be so bad here. So
no, we're good. So we'll end it. I'll talk to you a minute off camera.
yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on, giving us a breakdown, giving us everything. I love talking to you. And thank you, Bill Gardner, for the super chats. And everyone say bye-bye to Dashi.
Good job, Dashi.
And